Hey, I thought I would talk to you about social anxiety today because recently I had the opportunity to experience a different flavor of social anxiety, and it's all because of that COVID thing. Intellectually, I realized that social isolation was going to make me more uncomfortable in certain social situations. But what I didn't realize was that it was going to give me the opportunity to learn more about myself. And by focusing on my physical reactions, I was going to be able to reconnect with emotions that were buried so deep and that were so chronic that I'd forgotten all about them. So this gave me the opportunity to learn more about myself and to reconnect with life. In this episode, I'm going to share with you different tips and strategies to understand your body's physical sensations and to help you reconnect them with your emotions. Hi, my name's Kim. I'm a nationally certified and licensed Chinese medical provider and a Taoist practitioner. And today we're going to talk about social anxiety and reconnecting with your body and your physical emotions. So how are you and I going to do that? Well, first let's talk about the 6 most common situations where you might feel social anxiety, because if you're aware of the situation, then you are going to be on the lookout for it and you might be more able to identify areas or times when you're feeling social anxiety. And then I want to talk to you about anger, because I think anger is kind of that canary in the coal mine. It's that early warning system that there is a problem, and I'll talk more about that later. And then last, let's talk about those physical sensations in your body and what they might mean. What are the 6 most common ways that you might feel social anxiety? It's going to be things like talking to strangers, embarrassment, social events, authority figures, criticism, or being watched. Those are the 6 most common situations where you might get social anxiety. Just being aware of that narrow focus, it gives you something to think about. Instead of wondering if you're feeling social anxiety, just become aware in those situations. And that can help you better identify when you're experiencing social anxiety and how it responds in your body. Now, I like thinking of life as getting a ticket to the amusement park, because life's really exciting. There's so many sensations, there's so much sound, there's so much noise, there's so much activity. It's like getting a ticket to an amusement park and you're going to go, oh, I want to go on the roller coaster and have an exciting time, or I'm going to go to the haunted house and get scared to death, or I'm going to go to the food court and just eat my way through the food court. And it's just this really exciting experience. But that level of excitement, sometimes it can get overwhelming, right? And it feels like we're just getting bombarded with all these sensations. And that's when I think about that amusement park. It changes. And I was in the Sonoran Desert in the spring of 2023, and all those atmospheric rivers were coming through, and it was causing all this flooding. When we're getting bombarded, I kind of think of that as more of, instead of being able to stand on the bank and watch the river go by, it's like you accidentally slipped in, and now all your focus is just on getting yourself back to the bank and back to safety. And you cannot focus on anything else because you're just trying to survive. Labeling those 6 emotions means you get to focus on this really narrow range of activities to monitor for discomfort. What I found when I just focused on those types of events, that I actually had social anxiety in situations where I didn't think I had social anxiety. The biggest learning for me was when I got overstimulated and was in a new situation, my body and mind would start to react internally. And I found that I returned to the body sensations and emotions from my childhood and those deep hurts. That's the thing about social anxiety. It's about this knee-jerk reaction. Oh, look who's visiting. Hi, sweetie. How are you? How are you? Yeah, how are you? You gonna sit with me? Okay, we'll see what she's gonna do. She's very independent. But what I found, oops, nope, that's not helpful. That's not helpful. Okay, what I found was that, yeah, that's not helpful either. Just saying, that's not helpful either. Okay, so the thing about social anxiety, right, is it's this knee-jerk reaction to society. It's usually based on what you experienced in your past, so from your family history. And part of the problem with that is nobody wants going back to their past and to their family history. But the thing is that's like impacting you and your whole life right now. So if you don't go back there and if you don't address it, then oops, not helpful, not helpful. Oh, so not helpful, but thank you. Yeah, so not helpful. So if you don't go back there, you want to come down? Yeah, I know. Here we go. Ready? There we go. Yep, I know, I got you. I got you. Okay. So if we don't address it, then it's just going to keep on impacting our life and usually kind of destroying our life too. So, and the other thing that makes this so hard to do is because when we go back to those emotions and those sensations, you know, they're buried in this landfill of trash. And so let's go back and let's look at some teachings from Taoism and classical Chinese medicine to start picking apart some of these emotions so that you don't have to go dig through the whole landfill to get to where you want to be. Hey, let's take a minute to talk about anger. And in psychology, they're going to call anger a secondary emotion, which means it's not the primary emotion. In Taoism and classical Chinese medicine, anger is a response to a situation, a response to something that happens, a response usually to an emotion. And so in Taoism and classical Chinese medicine, it's the same thing. It's a secondary response to a emotion, the primary emotion that happened. In Taoism and in classical Chinese medicine, there's always a yin and yang. So yang's going to be anger. Anger is a very yang emotion, and its opposite yin sister is going to be kindness. So the two sides of that yin and yang coin are going to be kindness and anger. One of the things you can think about is a baby. When a baby is first born, their initial response is pretty much nothing, but it's not anger. And when you see kids interacting with each other, there's this level of kindness that is really amazing. It's not until they experience emotions like being bullied or being abused or being mistreated that they start reacting differently in the world. And so life, you start out with kindness and then life changes your behaviors. So kindness starts, anger second. Now here's the other thing. There's a beauty in anger that we don't usually acknowledge in the West. Anger is about defending and protecting yourself or defending and protecting others. When you are willing to defend or protect, you still believe that you or somebody else has self-worth. It's when you stop believing that you can defend or protect yourself, that the situation's changed. That's the true beauty of anger, is it's our ability to stand up and say, hey, I have value in this world. One of the interesting things about anger is it's usually sprouts from something that we consider as an injustice. So anger comes from injustice. Anger can have a negative side where it's from revenge or it's from wanting to harm somebody in the way that they've been harmed, where it's not about standing up for yourself or standing up for others. Anger out of kindness is where you get your heroes. One of the most common places where I see a hero is when you have a child that stands up to a bully on a playground. There's a beauty of anger. It's about standing up for yourself, it's about standing up for others, and it's about realizing that you have self-worth and that you feel that there's some sort of injustice. And then the other beauty of anger is anger from kindness is where we get our heroes. So anger, it's a secondary emotion. It's not your primary. Now here's the real interesting part about it. Anger can be that canary in the coal mine. And if you're not familiar with that analogy, well, that analogy comes from way back when they used to use canaries in coal mines to warn the miners of toxic gases. And that early warning system allowed them to evacuate the mine before they died. And that is what anger can be, is it can be your early warning systems. It's your chance to find where that emotion originated from. And how it's protecting something deeper within allows you to look for the cause of your hero instead of just stopping at anger. We map emotions onto our body, and that is so incredibly fundamental to Taoism and classical Chinese medicine. Our physical bodies is an expression of our life. It's the karmic expression of our life. And that expression can be beautiful and bold, or it can be sad and tragic. And it doesn't have to be one or the other. It can be beautiful and bold one day and then sad and tragic the next day. So how would you start to understand how these emotions map onto your body? Because that was the piece that was interesting to me that I wanted to know more about, because I would go through, these social anxiety situations that I didn't think existed and found out that they did, but I'd go through this and I'd feel the emotions, I'd feel the mental sensations in my body. And I wanted to understand that more so that I could really understand more what the core situation was that was being expressed in my body. And it's not just that this is being expressed in your body, it's almost like it's trapped in your body. As long as it's mapped onto your body, as long as you don't release it, you're going to continue to express whatever that is. So if you're having a knee-jerk reaction to something, as long as that's still mapped onto your body, you're going to continue to have that knee-jerk reaction. You might learn how to control it, but it doesn't mean that the emotion's going to go away. And that knee-jerk reaction has become such a part of you that you don't even acknowledge it anymore, you just do it. But if you can find your way to figuring out what is causing that knee-jerk reaction, you can be able to release and let that go. So let me share with you some common physical sensations and what they mean, and maybe that might make sense to you. Have you ever had that feeling of just suddenly being ice cold? Now that usually happens in your lower abdomen, but sometimes it's like throughout your whole body. That sensation is about somebody trying to take away your core identity, someone trying to take away you. And it's usually in situations where you feel powerless and you feel like you don't have any control. And then the other aspect of it is that there's not someone around who will help you. And it's not that they can't help you, it's that they won't help you. It's that they refuse to help you. So that's that sensation of ice cold. And that's probably one of the most tragic sensations that you can feel. Just the incredible threat to your life and your livelihood. I've got another one. What about, do you ever get like nervous flutters? Usually nervous flutters, more so towards the middle of the abdomen, towards the left side of the abdomen. This can be about the inability to separate yourself from the situation. So discernment, it's part of discernment, to identify what's theirs and what's yours. And that's more about, instead of being able to see the situation as it is, you see the situation as the role you were assigned in your family of origin. And that's the thing, is family of origins, everybody has a role that they play in that family. And when families are dysfunctional, nobody gets a good role. And so you get roles like being the martyr or being the bully or something else. But you get these roles, and when you're in situations that trigger you, that bring out that knee-jerk reaction, you assume your role. You assume the situation is about you, and you immediately take on your role. So it's about being able to separate yourself from this situation. And that can create that nervousness inside of you, because you're always afraid of, when's the next thing that's about me? And most of these situations are never about you. So that's something to think about. Oh, what about pain in both hips? Or even one hip? Now, this one I thought was really interesting, because that kind of pain, you see a lot of people have hip surgery in their later years. That's about that concept of holding the weight of the world, feeling like you're holding up the weight of the world. And being that sensation usually happens much later in life, it gives you an idea of how much time has to pass of you experiencing this feeling for it to actually show up in your physical body. Or it gives you an idea of how intense something has to be for it to actually show up in your physical body. What about one last one? Because this one I see a lot. That incredible tightness in the shoulders, going up, both shoulders up into the neck. That is about defending yourself. That is always about defending yourself. And in families of origin, where I see that most is drug addiction or alcoholism, where that plays a big role in one of the parents' lives, or narcissism or bullying, borderline personalities. These really tough emotional interactions with other people. And when you're a child, that level of powerlessness that you have, that lack of control, it leaves you constantly at the whim, and you're constantly defending yourself. These are the kids that will watch how many drinks their parents have, just to make sure, to understand what kind of behaviors they have to have. So there's like 4 ideas of some of the different emotions that you can have and how they start to manifest physically on the body. There's a ton more, but that gives you a start, and those are some of the more common ones that I see. Becoming aware of the physical sensations in your body gives you another key to unlocking your complicated doors. And if you are on the lookout for these 6 common situations for social anxiety, you might become aware of a situation that has become so chronic that you actually have ignored it. This might give you the opportunity to reconnect a physical sensation with an actual real life experience, and giving you the opportunity to unlock more hidden gems about yourself, profound truths that you want to release in order to experience a better life. There's going to be many emotions that you're going to be able to release and manage with all the tools available today. But there's always going to be that one situation that seems to control you, and no amount of therapy, meditation, qigong, yoga seems to help. And that's because that situation is buried really deep. They need additional tools that address the spiritual, emotional, and physical aspects. And that's where internal alchemy through classical Taoist Chinese medicine can help. And these sessions, they work great remotely. So if you're curious to explore Taoism and internal alchemy in more depth and how it might be able to help you, click on the link at the end of this video and schedule your free session to explore internal alchemy further. Okay, guys, until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.